In the heart of Memphis, a love story began that would shake the foundations of music and society. Elvis Presley, fresh out of high school and with a dream in his eyes, found himself in a whirlwind romance with a girl named Dixie. What made this pairing shocking wasn't just their quick connection, but the acceptance of Elvis into Dixie's family, a family that wasn't initially welcoming of this newcomer. It was as if the stars aligned in an unexpected way, bringing together two young souls who would change the world with their music. Dixie and Elvis spent countless hours together. They roller skated under the Memphis sky, went to movies, and strolled through local parks. But it was Elvis's guitar that truly stole the show. He would strum softly, singing songs that ranged from popular hits to old blues and spirituals. His voice was like nothing anyone had heard before, a mix of raw emotion and smooth melody. Friends and passers-by couldn't help but stop and listen. Some found it strange, even a little unsettling, but there was no denying the power of his voice. Dixie told her friend Peter Guralnick, a writer who would later document Elvis's life, that Elvis had a magnetic pull. He sang songs that were popular and a lot of the old blues-type songs, she explained. He even sang some spirituals. Right from the start, it was like he had a power over people. They couldn't help but react, even if they didn't want to. For some, like Dixie's friends, Elvis's singing was so captivating that it felt almost otherworldly. Elvis and Dixie shared a deep love for gospel music. They often attended all-night gospel singings at Ellis Auditorium. Sometimes they snuck off to a nearby colored church to listen to the passionate singing and preaching. These experiences fueled their own musical journey. Elvis would take Dixie to her high school prom, where his music and charisma left a lasting impression. They talked about marriage, dreaming of a future together after Dixie graduated in 1956. But even as their relationship blossomed, Elvis harbored a secret ambition. At 19, he spoke of becoming a professional musician, a dream that seemed far-fetched given his current life of part-time work and the looming prospect of night school and a career as an electrician. Yet this dream had been germinating long before Dixie entered his life. It began with the music sessions at the courts, where he and his friends first found their sound. The thriving music scene in Memphis, with its local country and gospel stars, fueled his aspirations. The chance to make it big wasn't something Elvis took lightly. It was a leap of faith, one he wasn't ready to take until his performance at the Hum's annual minstrel show. The positive reaction he received there was a turning point. For the first time, he felt like a musician in the eyes of his peers. This newfound confidence pushed him to seek out opportunities, even as he pretended everything was normal, continuing to look for a steady job as if his musical dreams were just a fantasy. Elvis's dream of becoming a musician was not a sudden whim. It had been simmering in the back of his mind for years. It started when he and his friends at the courts began playing music together. The vibrant music scene in Memphis, with its local heroes in country and gospel, ignited a fire in him. He saw these musicians as more than just stars. They were a different kind of success, one that didn't require the dull routine of a 9-to-5 job. The idea of making it in music seemed impossible, yet Elvis couldn't shake it. It was a fantasy that young people often entertain, a dream of being in the spotlight with the material rewards of post-war America. But Elvis had a different vision. He wanted to be more than just a local celebrity. He wanted to be a star, recognized across the country. It wasn't until his performance at the Hum's annual minstrel that Elvis felt a real spark of hope. The positive response he received energized him. For the first time, he felt like he had something unique to offer. His classmates began to see him not just as the quiet kid with the unusual haircut, but as a musician with potential. This newfound recognition gave Elvis the courage to take a bold step. Fearing rejection and his parents' disapproval, who wanted him to pursue a stable career, Elvis kept his plans hidden. He continued to act normal, even as he plotted his move into the music industry. During the last weeks of his senior year, he searched for any job that would keep him busy, all while secretly preparing for his big break. In the summer of 1953, after high school but before he found a full-time job, Elvis decided to take a chance. He visited the Memphis Recording Service, a small studio on Union Avenue where anyone could record an acetate for just $3.98 plus tax. This wasn't just a whim to make a birthday record for his mother, as the myth later suggested. It was a calculated move, a calculated step toward being noticed. Sam Phillips, the owner of the studio and the founder of Sun Records, was a man of vision but also of struggle. At 30, he had faced rejection and frustration in the music industry, which was dominated by mainstream country and pop music. Phillips had a unique background. Growing up around black people on his father's farm, he developed a deep appreciation for black music and culture. This set him apart from many of his white peers, who saw black music as something to be ignored or mocked. Phillips had a bold idea: to record and promote any kind of music, no matter how unconventional. He launched Sun Records in 1950, specializing in black music, from traditional blues to the new, electrified R&B. His business card proudly stated, "We record anything, anywhere, anytime, a complete service to fill every recording need." He traveled to public events, setting up sound systems and encouraging people to use his studio. His reputation grew, but success was slow and hard-fought. When Elvis walked into the studio, Phillips saw an opportunity. Elvis wasn't just there to record a birthday song, he was there to make a statement. By visiting Phillips, Elvis was actively seeking to be noticed by a man who was eager to discover new talent. Elvis's visit was not a coincidence, but a strategic move to catch the attention of a visionary who believed in the power of unique sounds. Sam Phillips was more than just a record producer. He was a true visionary, a man who dared to see beyond the mainstream. Raised in rural Alabama, Phillips had a unique upbringing that shaped his love for black music. His father's farm was a melting pot of cultures, and from a young age, he was exposed to the rich sounds of blues and gospel. This exposure wasn't just casual. Phillips actively sought it out. He worked in radio, first as an announcer and later as a programming engineer in Memphis, where he became tired of the conventional country music played on the airwaves. In 1945, Phillips moved to Memphis with a dream: to create a space where any kind of music could thrive. He opened a studio that specialized in black music, a bold move in a time when the music industry was rigidly segregated. Phillips recorded everything from traditional blues to electrified R&B, capturing the raw, emotional sounds that defined a generation. He wasn't just a businessman, he was an archivist, preserving music that was often overlooked or dismissed. Phillips's approach was unconventional. He believed in giving artists the freedom to express themselves fully, to showcase their unique talents. He once said, "I went into the studio to draw out a person's innate, possibly unknown talents, present them to the public, and let the public be the judge." This philosophy set him apart. While other record labels stuck to safe, commercial formulas, Phillips was willing to take risks. He understood that true art came from authenticity, not conformity. Despite his innovative spirit, Phillips faced ridicule. Many white Southerners viewed his interest in black music as bizarre, even taboo, but Phillips was undeterred. He left his radio job to focus entirely on his studio, determined to prove that there was a market for this music. He leased recordings to independent labels and even created his own label, Sun Records, in 1953. Sun Records became a beacon for artists who felt stifled by the music industry's conventions. Phillips released records by Rufus Thomas and Little Junior Parker, tapping into a market that was growing rapidly, both among black listeners and white teens who were hungry for something new. While major labels like RCA and Columbia ignored the potential of rhythm and blues, Phillips saw a goldmine. He understood that the market for race records was not only viable but burgeoning. Phillips's vision was not just about making money, it was about giving voice to those who were often silenced. He believed in the power of music to break barriers and change hearts. His studio became a haven for creativity, a place where artists could be themselves without fear of judgment. This was the environment that Elvis Presley stepped into when he visited the Memphis recording service, setting the stage for a musical revolution. In the early 1950s, Sam Phillips was convinced that rhythm and blues music, or R&B, had a special charm for many young white people. He believed that the lines dividing music based on race were starting to break down. This was a big deal because for a long time, music for whites and blacks was kept separate. Phillips thought this change could lead to Southern whites not just listening to R&B, but also starting to love and understand its rich history. This history included both black and white influences, something that went against the strict rules of segregation enforced by laws like Jim Crow. Phillips often pointed to the growing interest in R&B. Radio shows like Dewey Phillips's Red, Hot, and Blue were popular, and more young white people were buying R&B records and visiting clubs on Beale Street in Memphis. Beale Street was famous for its music, especially blues, and it was a place where racial barriers seemed to blur. However, many wondered if this interest was just a fleeting trend. Despite this, conservative Southerners who wanted to keep races separate were becoming more vocal. They were worried that increased interest in R&B could threaten their efforts to maintain segregation. They saw the potential for change as a threat to the status quo they wanted to preserve, but Phillips was undeterred. He believed that country music already had elements of black music, even if most whites didn't notice. He was sure that the real barrier to white acceptance of black music was artificial and would eventually disappear. He dreamed of a future where all Southerners could enjoy and appreciate their shared cultural roots, a mix of black and white traditions. For Phillips, the key to this cultural shift was a white musician who could capture the essence of black R&B, someone who could feel and express its passion and originality. He thought that if such a musician emerged, he could change everything. If he succeeded, Phillips would make a fortune. Though some saw him as just a greedy businessman, Phillips had bigger dreams. He wanted to reshape the South, though this vision was met with skepticism because of deeply rooted racism. Phillips' quest took a turn when Elvis Presley walked into his studio, the Memphis recording service, on a hot summer day. At first, neither Phillips nor his assistant Marion Kasker saw anything special about Elvis. But Kasker was intrigued by his confidence and unique answer when asked who he sounded like. "I don't sound like nobody." His down-to-earth attitude made her like him right away. When it was Elvis's turn to record, he sang 2 pop ballads that showed only a glimpse of his potential. His voice was good but not outstanding. Still, Phillips saw something special in him and thought he might be worth a second chance. Elvis kept coming back, hoping to catch the attention of Phillips and get his break. Despite his hopes, Elvis faced rejection time after time. He tried out for a local gospel group and even auditioned for a country band but was turned down each time. These rejections were tough, especially when one of the rejectors reportedly told him he'd be better off driving a truck. Elvis was heartbroken but not broken. By June 1954, Elvis's dreams of a music career seemed to be fading. He had other jobs lined up, even considering becoming an electrician, but deep down, he was changing. Moving from Tupelo to Memphis had transformed him. In this new city, he was starting to become the person he would soon become famous for. Elvis had been influenced by many things and had developed his own unique style, one that was ready to be unleashed on the world. Though he was still unknown, he was on the brink of something big. His journey from a disappointed young man to a cultural icon was just beginning, and it would change American culture forever. In the summer of 1954, Elvis Presley's life seemed simple and unchanged. He drove a truck, spent time with friends, and went to movies in Riverside Park, but something big was about to happen. One day, Sam Phillips, a record producer, called Elvis to come to the studio. Elvis went right away, eager to show what he could do. At first, Phillips wasn't sure about Elvis. The songs Elvis sang were normal and a bit boring, but Phillips noticed something special. Amid the usual songs, Elvis sang with a unique energy, showing hints of a fresh style. Phillips wanted to give Elvis more chances to show his talent. He He asked a guitarist named Scotty Moore and a bass player named Bill Black to join Elvis in the studio. When they met, Elvis looked tough on the outside but was actually shy and unsure of himself. The group played together, starting with some slow songs. Then something amazing happened. Elvis began singing an old R&B song by Arthur Crudup called "That's All Right." Elvis sang it with joy and freedom, something Phillips had never heard before. It was different from country music and not typical for white singers at the time. As they kept playing, the group felt something special. The music was exciting and new. It mixed the sounds of black and white music, breaking down the barriers created by segregation laws. Phillips was thrilled. This was the sound he had been searching for. He believed it could bring people together and change the music world. After hearing the recording, everyone was amazed. The song was unlike any blues song before. It was powerful and original. Scotty, Bill, and Elvis knew this could be big, but also worried about how people would react. Would white audiences like this new sound? Phillips, however, was full of hope. He saw this as a chance to unite music fans across different backgrounds. The sound Elvis was creating had the potential to break down the walls that separated black and white music. This moment was a turning point, marking the beginning of something new and exciting in music. In the end, Elvis had found his voice and his style. Even though he started out doing what was expected of him, he dared to explore and mix different musical influences. This bold move led to a sound that would change the world of music forever. Elvis Presley was on his way to becoming a legend, all starting from a simple day in a studio in Memphis.